This guy, Justin Vasco, and Sir Tony Magirang at the time is coming as well. We have Enzo, nakita ko si Enzo kanina, so wala pa. Earl Magirang, Fanboy SEO. Taraya is representing Manila Bulletin, Speed Magazine, okay, Pat Kalika, and two representatives from PDI. We have Joel Anigos, and wala pa si Joel, nasa breakout lang. Okay, so let's proceed with discussion. We're joining our panelists, of course, our President and CEO, Sir Jimmy Go, and Ian Felipe.
Wala pa.
Okay, Huawei is represented by Arnie Alvarez, the CDO and IT Director, Enterprise Business Group, Huawei Philippines. Adobe, we have Sir Rajesh Patel, Head of Territory and Channel Sales, Digital Media, Adobe Southeast Asia. VMware, we have Edna Marquez, Solutions Engineer Manager. Fortinet, we have Sir CP Wong, Regional Business Development Manager. Yugabyte, Sir Dennis A, Head of Sales, South Asia, Yugabyte. Aruba, Sir KH, Regional Category Manager. And APC, we have Harold Lim. And IBM, Sir Lopedo Romano, Automation Technical Specialist, IBM, Pre-Sales. And lastly, Microsoft, we have Vet Watson, Modern Work and Security Business Lead, Microsoft Philippines. All right. So this time, the reporters will drive the discussion. The reporters will drive the discussion. I'd like to ask John to throw in the first question. So feel free to ask any of our panelists.
Well, before we start, I just would like to thank all our press people for coming and for attending this session, for covering the event. Okay, and I think tomorrow we have a separate event for all of you. Yes. Okay. So again, thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. And go ahead. Please feel free to ask all of our sponsors.
Thank you, Sir Jimmy. I was here in 2019. And then the pandemic came, and so this is a sort of coming out party for all the tech companies because I think the technology sector really came to the fore, especially during the pandemic. So let me just ask the first question in general. How do you see your respective companies in the coming quarters with the new normal that we have now? So maybe we can start with Mr. Arnie. Thank you, sir.
Hello. And thank you, sir, for that question. It's also the same question I had in mind personally. But what we see the pandemic has done, I think everyone would agree, it has accelerated digital transformation. So within Huawei, that's one thing that we have been trying to do. We've been trying to connect everyone, making everything intelligent. And I think in a way, the pandemic helped us leapfrog some organizations. So those who had plans further, they actually started doing it earlier. And I think a lot of customers are now very much open that preparing for a digital infrastructure is one way to continue on with their business.
Sir, anybody else? How about sir? Thank you, sir.
I think the word software is eating the world is much more relevant during this time, right? But at the heart and center of every software, I think we are in the database business. And I think where we are starting to see now is everybody is going for speed. That's why the cloud adoption is going up, especially in the Philippines. But more importantly, everybody is going for the ability to adopt things at speed with simplicity. So I think the pandemic has resulted in the wide adoption of software, but at the same time, the ease of adoption for software and making software always available as part of the business, the resiliency part of the business is becoming a central focal point. I think nobody likes downtime anymore. So this is where we see the focus being shifted just by running software to making sure services stays up with software that are resilient by nature and with the ability to run on any infrastructure. So I think this is where it's shifting from just running software to making sure software is efficient and easy.
Okay, thank you, sir. I defer to the other journalists.
Can I add one more point as well? And I'm from Aruba. So I have actually been doing a bit of reading up on hybrid workplace, and there were quite many articles that talk about employee wanting to be able to work in a hybrid environment, while organization wanted employee to all return back to work. Now this resulted in many employees resigning because they felt that they are better working from home, more productive. So what I'm encouraging company and organization is to actually embrace a mix of work in office and work at home, and that the infrastructure must be able to cope with that ability to have that hybrid workplace where you have employee in the office and at the same time allowing employee to work from home or anywhere to be able to actually access their application, whether it is in the cloud or database in the cloud, or in fact any application anywhere. So companies should embrace that hybrid workplace rather than insisting on employee coming through.
Maybe we can have a follow-up question with regards to security because of the attack surface being opened up with the working from home, the vulnerabilities in our own system, in our houses. Anyone?
Maybe I'll take that. It's Chimping or CP from Fortinet. Yes, so exactly that, right? So John, while we have software anywhere, we have people working from anywhere, and rightfully you've said it opens up our attack surface itself. So end of the day, it's we see also companies, businesses embracing the thoughts of allowing people to work from anywhere, but also at the same time they've also realized that they need to put in additional safe measures, things like multi-factor authentication to allow their users to access their resources network securely. That's number one. The second one that we see also a shift is that besides having just the SD-WAN part of things, right, there are also businesses going into security service edge or SSE or SASE kind of solution where they would have not just security on-prem but also security in the cloud, allowing users to access securely before they go into the internet, into the SaaS applications itself.
If I may also add, so I think one of the effects of this increasing focus around security and the complexity of the environments that need to be secure is the fact that a lot of organizations today end up with so many different technologies as part of their their security infrastructure. Right? A recent IBM study showed that I think the average we got was 45 different products and technologies for a typical enterprise organization, right? So the challenge is really how do you consolidate, similar to when we talk about data, we've been talking about siloed data within the organization not being effective and so on. With security, we're facing the same challenge. If you're using different tools and the data within those tools remain inside those tools alone, you're not able to correlate the information across the whole enterprise, right? So the challenge we're seeing a lot of organizations face today is how do they infuse AI and automation across these different security technologies so that they can maximize the investments they've had in these technologies.
Thank you, sir. Look, I have a follow-up question. Do we have, we know that AI is changing, the landscape, the business landscape. Do we have, in the Philippines, do we have success stories on implementation of AI, particularly for the finance segment?
So maybe if I can start. So I can't really name specific clients because of course we need to get their permission to do so, right? But I've worked with a few financial institutions, and a lot of the focus today around the use of AI is really understanding client behavior, right? the focus for a lot of financial institutions is to increase what they call wallet share. If you have a relationship, if you open an account with the bank, they want you to open another account, they want you to open, maybe take out a loan, they want you to make an investment, and so on, right? So a lot of banks are looking at what is the profile of other customers in the past that have taken similar products with the bank, right? And if they can identify what is the client profile to target, then they will probably have a higher probability for you to get that product. From a consumer perspective, it's also better for us because we don't like to receive spam advertising, right? In general, you receive a lot of advertisements for products that you really are not interested in, right? But if our banks or other, companies that we deal with can sort of understand our behavior and profile us, then they can give us more relevant offers that we probably have a bigger chance of taking up.
Thank you. Marlene?
Sorry.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Sorry.
You mind if I?
Sure.
Is this on? Okay. Here we go. Thanks. Yeah, I think just on AI, I think there are two things we're seeing, both in connection to the previous question around cybersecurity as well as how businesses are adopting AI overall. I think from a cybersecurity standpoint, it was very much known, right? With hybrid work, we've seen an acceleration of all these cybersecurity threats. But we also see security as an opportunity for organizations to really build trust with their customers and partners, right? And so in correlation to AI, we see that infusing AI into our security capabilities will also help augment organizations in the Philippines today that are trying to up their security posture, right? We acknowledge that not just in the Philippines, but globally as well, there is a shortage of cybersecurity talent, right? And so even in the Philippines alone, there's, where the cybersecurity professionals join government, where they're also needed, but they get poached in the corporate world. And so we want to give the opportunity using AI to help organizations, even if they don't have a very large cybersecurity team, to at least augment their capability with cybersecurity tools that will be able to detect and give them proactive security, if you will. And then from an organizational standpoint, Microsoft also has investments around data and AI and capabilities there with the likes of Azure. And we're seeing many organizations in the country today, I think, echoing the sentiment earlier, really looking at how AI can first help them deliver on their business, such as understanding their customers better, as well as improving their existing services and products.
Correct. Yes, Sir Sika.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just like to add also on cybersecurity itself, lesser on the business itself, and as the previous speaker has alluded to, right? AI is not just limited to the big businesses and all that. What we've done is making use of AI machine learning within the FortiGuard labs itself. So to understand behaviors of the data and all that, and then incorporating the signatures into all the products that we've rolled out. So in essence, every customer of Fortinet, right, with FortiGate itself has access to AI in a sense because they would be using the FortiGuard Labs research base. And that's the first one, right? And after that, we've also put this into some of the products. For example, our web application firewall makes use of machine learning to learn the users' behavior of the websites that they are protecting. So knowing these behaviors allows us to then better configure the WAF itself so that it can better protect the applications.
Yeah, for us, actually we look at AI as more of a big thing, right? It's like it's going to solve the problems of the world. But to be honest, the most important use cases that we see in AI right now is on the more mundane side, right? There's a lot of this is very prevalent right now. The talent pool that we have is pretty shallow, so we typically have challenges with skills, but we augment in terms of, say, for example, IT operations, right, IT governance. You put in a layer of AI on that, and that will make the people that you have an easier time with regard to solving their problems. So it's again, helping the people who help the organization. That's how we view AI right now.
One last thing I'd like to add. So, while I do agree that having business applications that are making use of AI, in Huawei we are heavily focused on infrastructure. So what we've done is, if you will look at across all our product sets, every single component would have this particular chip called a set. It's designed for artificial intelligence. To Mao's case earlier, use cases that we use in banks. Imagine this: you go inside a branch, you are a VIP. The branch manager will automatically be alerted that, hey, John is here. He's the VIP. Come and approach him. And then there's something more. Apart from approaching, she would have a list of the most common transactions that you make. Good morning, Mr. John. Are you here to make another withdrawal? So having that customer experience, and we talked about security. We are not a security company, but we understand the importance. So one of our flagship product is the storage. So one thing we do is storage is where data lives. And hackers in particular, they actually are targeting those very important data. So what we've done is we've used artificial intelligence to determine if there is a ransomware. On the fly, we are able to determine those type of infections. Imagine COVID, a new variant. It will automatically be able to detect and isolate. So that's how we use internally AI, and that's what a lot of our customers are finding appreciation on.
Let me add one more point to supplement Arnie from Huawei. So we are actually doing same as Huawei as well, where we are an infrastructure company. I'm going to answer this in two approaches, more relating to infrastructure. One is on how, when a device is connected to network, machine learning through advanced fingerprinting as well as crowdsourcing, we will be able to detect devices that were found on network, not just corporate issue laptop phones, but even IoT. And with advanced fingerprinting, we can actually classify those devices and group them accordingly and assign appropriate rights. And then partnering with all the other security vendors that's in the room here, they will use artificial intelligence to actually mitigate security threats. So that is one part of the answer. Second part of the answer is we do have also security feature, or I would say functionality that we have built to a very specialized equipment that allow us to do east-west traffic monitoring and mitigation of traffic in the data center. Today, I don't hear much of people talking about security in the data center. Many of them are talking about north-south firewall primarily, but there are not many. I probably among the whole event, I only heard of one. And Aruba is actually another vendor that essentially having that east-west security, where we partner with AMD Pensando to develop the software, silicon in the Aruba switch that allow us to be able to do east-west traffic security monitoring.
Yeah, I think one of the application of AI in this event is that the AI is able to give us a better weather forecast.
Hopefully from the weather.
And based on the weather forecast, looks like tonight is not going to be a very good weather.
So maybe I ask the media back one question, right? I mean, the database business, right? If there's a security leak, it's usually on the database side. What do you think the chances of that incident happen could be prevented in the security leakage situation, just because they didn't patch? I mean, if we look back, right, it goes back to a very fundamental question. They can't afford the downtime, so they didn't do it. Whether it's on the application level, the OS level, or data layer level. So that's why we are starting to see the importance of uptime without managing security along with uptime. I think this is something that is very fundamental. No amount of detection can fix a problem if you're not fixing it yourself. They can tell you you're going to fall sick, but if you're not going to address it before you fall really sick, that's going to be a big problem. So I think it's really about the operational side of things in making sure they can manage and balance security along with business impact. So that's why I'm saying the resiliency part of the business becomes more and more important on every single layer, not just on data services, but especially even more data services. The basic need to maintain discipline in keeping up to date with fixing security vulnerabilities is at the heart and center of most of the security incidents.
Yes, that's a very relevant question for us in media, because we are always the target of the dispute, the denial of service, and we at the Intrigue have this very big problem of recovering our data the last 4 years. So maybe we will approach some of you for support.
Ram, go ahead.
Realistically, most of our users are subscribed to several third-party vendors for different areas of their respective businesses. Most vendors allow or facilitate cross-vendor solution integration for their management platforms, but usually pay more attention for the smooth integration only for their own products. Can anyone share what your organization is doing to help customers achieve better integrations from disparate products that they have?
Is it okay if I start first? Okay, so again, I say traditionally the database is a hard business. Not just from the perspective of setting up, but from the perspective of integration. So now with the openness of infrastructure between on-premise and hybrid and cloud, our company is making it really simple by working with all the different cloud vendors and all the infrastructure vendors by being able to provision data services regardless of any infrastructure without you understanding the infrastructure. So this is the efforts that we are trying to do to future-proof technology adoption, but more importantly, operation simplification. Because technology adoption without ease of simplification of operations will be very hard to get mass adoption. So we provide integration with all the cloud vendors, all the native services like Kubernetes that's running on the cloud, as well as the native services that is running on-premise, so that you get a one-click experience to provision a database, highly available database in a matter of minutes, regardless of where the database sits, whether it's in Philippines, it's in Singapore, it's in Hong Kong, it's in US, from from where you are sitting.
Yeah, for us,
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So for us, we actually pioneered the concept of working with all of the vendors, and we are friends with all of the vendors, right? So we have partnerships with Oracle, Microsoft, AWS, right, IBM, and we call ourselves the Switzerland of cloud, right? Because the thought process there that we have is for you to have a true balanced approach with regard to integration, you should be working together with all of them, right? So we work on that on the platform side. We do have on the management side, we have the multi-cloud management piece also. We have partnerships with end user with endpoint endpoint computing companies also, right? And even at the edge, right? We also do that. So we feel that for you to be able to have a prioritization that makes sense, right? You should have that clear partnership with everyone and jointly develop together. So that's VMware's approach. Thank you.
And maybe for
So from an Adobe perspective, let me just bring the conversation towards the experience side of the business, because we've been hearing about the security as well as the hardware side of stories, but from an experience perspective, when you are considering of sharing any information, you as a customer, and you wanting to have better experiences for your customers, that is what Adobe brings to the table. Now, coming to your question around integration, you take a look at all our solutions are integrated not just within our clouds, but we are also integrating with all the top vendors or top solutions that every customer of ours might be using. So let me give you a very small example that when we are talking about electronic signatures, we have 150 inbuilt integrations today, like the likes of Salesforce, Workday, anybody utilizing any of these solutions, they can work from that particular solution itself and send something for signature. Now, this is one way of looking at it, but you might also ask, oh, so 150 only? What about the others? So we have API stacks available for anybody who has an API-driven system to just hook onto it, because when we are talking about electronic signatures, that's probably the digitization of the last mile, which people are slowly getting into. I can share very openly that Philippines National Bank is one of our proud customers of Adobe Sign, and we are looking forward to many more here in the Philippines. So this is from one side, which is on electronic signatures. The same way, our creative tools as well as our experience tools integrate with all the other systems that are available in the market today. So that's what we are doing from an Adobe perspective, to integrate and work together, breaking the silos basically.
How has content creation and consumption changed?
Oh, so content creation and consumption has changed tremendously. Especially if you take a look at the last 2.5 years, it has all been only about experiences. So if I am creating content, and it has democratized a lot. You know, this particular thing, this has got the strongest camera, the best CPU and everything. So today, not just the biggest brands are the content creators, but every individual is a content creator. So that is the reason we feel that it has democratized making sure that every individual, anybody who has an idea, is a content creator today. And if at all we have better content, engaging content, only then you will have the millennials stick to your website probably for more than the 3 seconds that they take to scroll through that content. And if you are able to do that, that means you are able to create that brand loyalty and create that brand experience. So that is what our customers are doing with Adobe. And Adobe is available not just on desktops, but we are available on a mobile phone, a tablet, and help you work from anywhere. So yeah, I think that is what it has changed in.
Yeah, maybe just from a Microsoft standpoint as well, to add on the question earlier of the importance of integration and partnerships, right? Microsoft was on quite a journey as well when you think about how we did partnerships and collaboration with the others. If you would recall a while back, Microsoft Office would probably best be deployed on Windows first, and the version of Microsoft Office for the other platforms would be, what, 2 or 3 years behind. When we think about open source, it was something that you wouldn't think Microsoft would actually even consider and partner with. Fast forward, when we went back, especially with our new leadership and culture transformation, we went back to our core and said our mission as Microsoft is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And that means realizing that every single individual that we want to empower would be using different tools, different apps, different mobile phones even. And so we had to embrace that. And so moving forward, you would have seen this transformation where all of our products, Microsoft Office would be available on all platforms, iOS and Android. You would have seen this trending picture of Satya with a large white wallpaper behind him saying, Microsoft love open source. And even our cloud with Microsoft Azure, many of the VMs are running open source operating systems today. And so we, including the development of our products, as you look at security again, for example, Microsoft Security embraces and secures not just our own platform, but even for our customers today that embark on multi-cloud strategies, we secure resources running on Azure, running on Amazon Web Services, and even running on Google Cloud, because we firmly believe that if we go back to our core, we should be willing to partner. And that's for the, again, for the benefit of our customers.
Maybe on the topic of, Grant, thanks for the question, on the topic of cybersecurity, right, and integration. I think integration is really at the core of the idea of consolidating different point products together, and that's what Fortin has been doing. If you look at cybersecurity, what do we want to do? To have a visibility so that we can detect and then protect and respond to any cyber threats. So at the core of it, there are 2 levels. We've been talking about cloud. So cloud visibility across multi-cloud environment itself is something that we've been doing. And recently, we launched this product called VST-ECS, and that's the one that allows us to, or users, to have a view across multiple cloud platforms to understand, the security posture that they have, be it in Azure, be it in AWS or Google Cloud, for example. That's at the cloud level, right? But from an IT organization perspective, this is where we say, hey, we are able to integrate various solutions, say ingesting the logs over to our SIEN itself. That's where we then are able to detect any threats coming in through all these logs, right? Do the analysis, and then be able to then run scripts automated through our SAW system, 40 SAW, and allow us to then automatically orchestrate and respond to any threats that we see across the entire chain. Yeah. So this is, to answer your question directly, is how Fortinet we see integrating with third-party solutions, because we do recognize that every organization is going to have multiple solutions, and this integration is absolutely critical.
Okay, let me. Okay, yeah, sorry. So I'm going to come from Aruba's standpoint. So Aruba has got a very good policy manager, Aruba ClearPass, which is pretty popular, and it doesn't have any proprietary function and feature. Everything is open standard, so it actually integrates with many third-party appliances, best-of-breed security vendors. We can actually be able to integrate with some other partners like Checkpoint, Palo Alto, Fortinet, to be able to ingest information, and then things that we don't understand, we pass to the firewall, and then we can actually collaborate between the appliance and the firewall to be able to integrate network security tighter, so that we can actually enforce a role across the entire infrastructure, whether it's for wireless or wired environment in the campus or in the branch, and we can actually do that. We do have also ability to actually, using ClearPass solution, detect client that's coming in. I mentioned about it earlier on, so I'm going to enforce it again. Those are brand agnostic solution that we have. We don't work on Aruba infrastructure alone. We work on any infrastructure, whether it's Aruba or non-Aruba. So we have that ability to integrate with third-party, some of the best of third-party security vendor.
Go ahead, Martin.
My question is for Mr. Gino. Sir, on the business perspective, what trends are you seeing in terms of business solutions with in terms of business solutions and based on partnership? Where do you think the investments will pour in?
Well, first of all, I think the IT business has been very blessed during this pandemic, and we all know that IT has been the center stage of all the transformation. And I think that business will continue to grow. IT business will continue to grow despite all the supply chain problem. Okay, there was a surge of consumer product or notebooks and notebooks, tablets, and smartphones during the early pandemic. Now there's a surge on enterprise equipment, though there's a lot of shortage. So I think this will continue until next year or next year. I think cybersecurity, networking, Wi-Fi, the whole transformation, IT transformation is still going to continue. Yeah. And I think that's going to be the first priority of most companies in order to be successful. Yeah. I don't know if some of you would like to add. Yeah. But we're very blessed.
Can I have a follow-up question to that? How about the buzzword present? Metaverse and Web3, any previous forecasts?
Yep. I would like to probably jump on that side. I think it's a very broad topic when we talk about metaverse, right? But and if everybody says that I understand it, they are probably not saying it the truth, right? But at the same time, I feel that there is a scope. There's a ton of scope from a content perspective and engaging content perspective. Now, it does not necessarily mean that, metaverse means that I have to have an avatar somewhere else and I can teleport there and come back and stuff like that. But when it comes to experiences, I'll give you a very simple example that one of our partners is doing in Indonesia, where a museum has started work on a VR technology or a VR QR code, actually, a virtual reality or augmented reality one, where students, when they visit the museum, they are walking through and they see a past president's photograph. Now, what would you generally have is an audio tool to tell you that, hey, this is the president, this is the days he was president and stuff. But if everybody has a smartphone, the student actually goes and scans the QR code. the president comes to life on his hologram, augmented reality comes to life and actually plays the speech with the audio that he had said during his time as presidency. Now this is one way of bringing engaging content to make sure that the kids will remember what was said, and this is one way of looking at it. Now, you may say that, oh, would you call it metaverse? No, it is not probably metaverse, but it is one part of it. It is a part where you can create that engaging content, and this is from an education perspective. But when you look at the other side of the business, where you're looking at commercial business, how do I ensure that VST-ECS's logo is there when I'm wearing the VR goggles and probably going around looking at Boracay Beach when I'm back in Singapore and missing this, which I'm missing even now because we have not seen the beach enough. But when you're looking around and you suddenly see a VST-ECS CXO Summit logo there. Oh, that's the advertising gain, I feel. That's the impression that, and then the plethora comes. The plethora of tools that can follow is how many clicks did they have, how many impressions did they get, how many eyeballs did they get, what was the number of seconds that you're looking at that logo, or what did you do after that. So there are many other things that can get involved in that.
What's the timetable?
The timetable. Yeah, why not? What's the agenda? When is the press meet going to happen? Is it happening now? Yeah, it is probably. So those are the kind of things that are there. And from an Adobe perspective, why we are so excited about it is you've always seen Adobe create, give our creators the best tools to create engaging content. Whatever you see around, chances are mostly has been touched by an Adobe technology. So when you're looking at experiences and creating those experiences, a couple of years ago we acquired the company called Algorithmic. Algorithmic is today Adobe Substance. It is helping our creators do 3D content, make 3D. And it is not that we are competing with any other 3D brand, we are helping them apply texturing on 3D. So Substance is the way to go that we are looking at. I'm sure everybody is carrying a smartphone. If you have not seen, please download Adobe Aero, A-E-R-O. That's a beta version where you can create a AR and on any surface and showcase it on your phone straight away. So that is probably the exciting part that I feel about, or that's where Adobe is looking at as well. Yep.
Hi guys, so sorry I have a flight to catch, so I really appreciate your time, and yeah, do feel free to reach out. Happy to provide any additional comments. Apologies about that, and really appreciate your spending time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think maybe just to add on the metaverse question, if that's all right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So from a metaverse standpoint, it's very, very interesting, and we're having many conversations with customers and partners around it as well. Are we at a point where we fully understand what the metaverse is gonna look like? Absolutely not. And I think all of the technology companies today understand that it's work in progress, if you will. But there's quite excitement around that, and the reason I believe is because of delivering a certain level of experience, of immersive experience, if you will, right, on the digital world as well. And we've seen this in the likes of gaming as well, right? And so imagine bringing those experiences, and the rest is, I think, bringing a lot of excitement around metaverse. Microsoft in particular, we're following that trend very, very closely. In fact, we're participating as well in the development. We have conversations, and even towards our own tools today, like for example, Microsoft Teams, right, which we know is collaboration and video conferencing solution. We've announced Microsoft Mesh, which is going to be actually I've tested it out myself, a pretty exciting part of Microsoft Teams, where we now have avatars representing us, and with our partnership with Accenture, they even did a pilot to try out the metaverse mesh experience in Microsoft Teams, so that they were doing onboarding for new hires during the pandemic through a 3D virtualized world, if you will, where they actually put the Accenture office in a virtual experience, and using Microsoft Teams you can go around and have conversations. And so it's an exciting space. We're definitely making investments around it, and as well as our tools, and we're also helping our customers understand how they can utilize potentially metaverse in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Good morning to our panelists. My question is specifically directed to Beth Watson, but the others can answer if you want to share. So, as organizations implement a hybrid workplace, what recommendations can you give so as not to create or aggravate information silos, strengthen corporate culture, and how do you measure productivity in a hybrid environment?
Thank you. I think I shared a bit of this yesterday on the event with the customers as well. But look, I think we strongly believe that based on our studies, and if you want to read the full report, it's called the Microsoft Work Trend Index Report. The 2022 version talks a bit about why we believe hybrid work is here to stay, which is really to allow organizations to become more flexible so that they can be more agile for anything that's going to happen in the future, right? We firmly believe embracing flexibility is going to be the way to go, but also that hybrid work would vary from organization to organization, from department to department. And there's a few things that we highly recommend. I think recently our CEO, Satya Nadella, released his own article around productivity paranoia, which is this concern that if I don't see you in the office, you're not productive. It's a pretty good article. I highly recommend reading it, again by Satya Nadella. But the point there is that we need to understand that, again, work is not where you are, it's getting things done for the delivery of outcomes for your organization, right? And so there's this whole shift that we're advocating with our customers today and our partners to understand that we need to think about productivity from a perspective of, again, business results. And so as part of that, one of the things that we've launched as part of Microsoft 365 and our productivity and collaboration stack is something called Microsoft Viva Goals, which helps organizations develop their OKR framework, objectives and key results framework, so that they can start looking at what are the business objectives at the high level, at the corporate strategy level, and how do they trickle down those KPIs all the way to individuals in the field, right? To actually have KPIs that will then fundamentally push the aspirations of the organization. And so we believe that's one aspect. And the other aspect of, again, hybrid work moving forward is I go back to cybersecurity, right? And embracing hybrid work while ensuring that cybersecurity is top of mind is adopting more of a zero trust model, which we understand in the security world is not a Microsoft thing. It's a framework of zero trust, and we help our customers and partners adopt zero trust while as much as possible being able to do more with less.
And maybe if I may just add, so I think what I just want to share is, while sometimes the focus around hybrid work is on the technology side of things, I think that also alluded to some of it earlier. A big part of the success of adoption of hybrid work is really the culture within the organization. Right? In some ways, there needs to be changes in the culture, in how you measure employees, for example, and so on. As most of you are probably aware, IBM is probably one of the first companies in the Philippines to adopt, well, we used to call it remote work, right? As early as 1999, we already allowed our people to work from home, work from customer place, work from anywhere, right? But while we provide the best of technologies to the employees, even in those early days, a big part of the success of that program was really the change in the mindset of the managers, in terms of you have to trust your people that they're doing their work even if you don't see them every day in the office, right? So I just wanted to share that on top of all of the technology things, there's also the non-technology side of things that needs to be considered.
Yeah, I'd like to supplement that non-technology part of it. HPE has, since the pandemic, have actually asked most of the sales employee to work from home permanently. So this means that when we have new hire, we may not see who they are. What we did with Aruba is we actually dedicate 1 day a week where we come back to the office, okay, for collaboration. We call it collaboration day, and this allows colleagues, whether it is an existing colleague or new colleague who just onboarded, to be able to see each other, be able to catch up with each other so that they can see and put a name to the face. And every once in a while we will go out for lunch and dinner collaboration. So this actually helps go a long way, because not only do you actually have that team bonding, but allow each other to collaborate in a more cohesive way. And of course, trust is important, to make sure that you don't measure them because they are in the office and they are not in the office, means they're not working. Not true. So this has to be ironed out as well. In our environment, we also have Wellness Day, which is typically once a month on a Friday, second half of the Friday of the month, where employees take 3 hours to actually spend time to do wellness activity, whether they go for a swim, they go for a run, or they go and take some classes to enhance their well-being. When I say well-being, it is not about physical well-being, but it can also be mental well-being. So the company gave us time to do that. And that is a culture that I think should be embraced as well, to ensure that employees continue our well-being, are being taken care of by the company, and not just work all the way.
Thank you. Ram, go ahead.
Government agencies hold a treasure trove of data that have the potential to produce operational insights that can actually solve real-world problems. They are locked in legacy architecture because of bureaucracy or lack of expertise. What can government agencies learn from commercial firms who are constantly driving new value from data?
Yeah, for us, right, I think what they can learn actually from a commercial perspective is the openness to be able to adopt technologies all across, right? Sometimes with regard to government, of course, there's limited skills. That's understandable, right? Is that they're well set on technologies that they've used from the past, right? But as you know, right now, evolving technologies are emerging, right? And you see many consumption models, you see many technology perspectives being run through, right? From a commercial perspective. So those technologies can actually help them very easily now, because a lot of it is SaaS, right? Before, you have to acquire it, you implement it in your data center and so on. But a lot of changes right now are going on with regard to the SaaS space. For example, you would not hear of core banking that's on cloud before, right? Now it's a reality, right? And that's because of SaaS. So the same with e-government services, right? We work with a lot of government clients wherein they have legacy technologies. You put up a small instance on the cloud just for the front end, right? But you can still use all of the back end for that, right? At this point in time, it's easily done. It's not as complicated as before, right? The tools are there, the ecosystem is there. So that's typically what they can really benefit from the commercial technologies being rolled out. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Margaret.
Yeah, I just want to go back to hybrid. I want to ask for Net about the SASE. Can you expound more how will a hybrid work benefit from using SASE?
Okay. Yeah, so maybe first principles first. Yeah, SASE itself is not just a single technology, but it's really a solution that is being put together. The fundamental definition of it, right, would include things like SD-WAN, zero trust, network access, firewall as a service, SWG as a service, proxy, right, CASB. So if you think of all these things putting together, what are we trying to achieve? First is any user from anywhere accessing your company's resource, be it in the cloud, SaaS or IaaS or your private cloud, your data center itself has to be secure. So all this traffic gets over to the SASE service. It's a service itself, and that's where we implement the policies that a proxy service would typically do, web filtering, antivirus, for example, right? And that's the SWG part of things. Then where does zero trust come in? Right? So by identifying what who the user is, what device he's carrying, is it secure, not secure, right? Then from there, these two things coming together then will allow us to then make a decision in the entire platform itself, right? To allow or disallow access to, let's say, ERP system, right, within the organization itself. Yeah. And yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Next scatter.
So this question applies to anyone. So we've been talking about work from anywhere as much as we would like that to be applied a lot now. And then we've also been talking about cloud and cybersecurity. However, we are in the Philippines. So even if now that 5G and let's say that Wi-Fi 6E are widely available, we can't deny that internet speed can still trickle a lot. So what are your solutions for this?
Anyone from our panelists?
Question.
I'll take on that. So one thing that we've always been doing, and well, I would say doing it with Uniques, we have as a company, we have several departments. So one of them, I think it's well known to everyone, it's the carrier department. So that department takes care of all the telcos in the Philippines. Majority, if not all, are using are using Huawei. So that's one part to address the internet speed. Next is we have a separate business in the consumer, where we have phones, the laptops, the desktops, and then also obviously we have the enterprise business where we work with different enterprise business. And in a lot of occasions, we integrate all our solutions together. And as people say, when customers want that experience, it has to be an end-to-end integration. And that's why one of the reasons why we're also bringing availability zones in the Philippines next year, because a lot, especially the Philippine government, they have this mindset that cloud should be local, data should reside in country, and while we do acknowledge that having a hybrid cloud approach, some on-prem, so having these integration would allow one of the best customer experience in terms of latency access. So that's what we have been doing. We are very strong in networking, in transmission, in ICT, and in all across our products, we also integrate artificial intelligence to help in a lot of different aspects that make customer experience much better.
So it's still in the process.
I'm sorry.
It's still a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
It's a continuous. So what we're trying to do, we have been doing heavy investments in R&D. I think in my session, the day one, what I did mention quite unique is over 50% of people in Huawei worldwide is into R&D. So we're trying to make everything faster, better, and more intelligent. I heard 5G mentioned earlier. So 2 years ago, we've started R&D on 6G. And making things possible. So some people ask me, I think I mentioned this yesterday, we have a vision for 2030. It's an intelligent world where everything's connected, and we released a white paper on it. So that's our vision, and it starts with the basic foundation, which is connecting everything and making everything seamless for everyone.
Yeah, I think from a Microsoft standpoint as well, we firmly believe in the necessity for us to have flexibility, right? Whether you're connected to the internet or not. So we do that as well as we think about our products and their development, whether it's from your personal productivity standpoint with, say, the likes of OneDrive for Business, that allows you to sync files on your desktop as well as when you're connected on the go, they're connected to the cloud. Which allows then for somebody like me who might be on a flight, might not have a really good internet connection, to be able to access my files still on my phone or even on my laptop, even if they're automatically saved and are actually in the cloud available for me. Whether it's in a corporate email setup where you have an organization where you would have maybe the head office employees with really stable internet connection and their mailboxes are sitting in the cloud, but they have offices in maybe some parts or provinces where the internet is kind of spotty and they do need access to their emails to check their inboxes once in a while or calendars, and they would have a setup of Exchange server there as an example, but it's set up in hybrid so that in such a way that I would be able to send mailboxes. I can have a full infrastructure, an email infrastructure that's actually a combination of mailboxes on-prem for certain sites and certain users, while some mailboxes are in the cloud, all the way to our data services as well, whether you have workloads that are running on Azure, while some are running on-prem for organizations that need some part of their data due to compliance to sit within their own data centers, that we still allow that hybrid setup so that it doesn't have to be a disconnected experience across both.
All right.
Maybe to add.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Maybe to add on also, just now I was talking about SASE, right? So one of the part of SASE is in SD-WAN, right? So SD-WAN itself inherently allows users, or at least businesses, to connect to multiple service providers, checking the performance, and then deciding which ISP we use, for example. Right? So that's at where, if you're talking about a data center or in the IaaS cloud itself, it's where your applications or your data is going to reside, right? But then what about the users? And this is where ZTNA comes in as part of that whole SASE solution. Once you know, okay, I'm given the credentials, given the privilege to access a certain application, right? Then it fires up the direct tunnel over to your data center itself, right? To allow you to access it directly. So this is a way also to provide the best, I would say, performance and user experience to whoever is using that SASE service.
Yeah, for VMware, we do have an approach revolving around engineering for efficiency and security, right? So what do I mean? So in the network space, yes, right. SD-WAN can be a very big help in terms of selecting the right path for you, and also make it as efficient as possible with regard to encryption and so on, right? From an application perspective, we believe that you should develop modern applications because those are much more nimble, much more responsive. So therefore, even if, say, you're working in Boracay and you're working with a modern application, right, it's a little bit easier to use, right? There's usability for that. And then finally, we also believe, in having web and application publishing, because web and application publishing will make your use more efficient. So say, for example, if you can use applications via the web, definitely it can give you a better response, right? If you're working from remote settings. Now, if, say, for example, you want to have a power user, then you have an approach revolving around VDI, right? Wherein you compute directly on the data center, but still just trigger the commands remotely. That can be done, right? So that's how we approach things. We engineer for efficiency and specifically security, because if you're remote, definitely you should take a look at that, have multi-factor authentication, unified endpoint management. So that's how we see things. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Harold.
Yes, so probably in this panel, Schneider Electric most likely would be mostly on the back end. So we support all of their systems with regard to the power, of course, right? So for Schneider Electric, one of the requirements or one of the mission or objectives that we wanted is to have everything on and active, right? So any failure or disruption, like what you were saying. So with that, we tend to, we continuously do our R&Ds to have our equipment as efficient and as reliable as possible. Even so, with the design or architecture of all the infrastructure at the back end, supporting all of these systems, right? So from there, we also have technologies wherein we can see or try to deviate on what are the things that's going to be happening before it happens, right? So we can address those things to prevent failure.
Prevention.
Thank you. I think we have to end the media briefing. It's almost lunch. Thank you so much for your time. Feel free to reach out to our panelists if you have follow-up questions. So feel free to engage with our speakers. They'll be here until tomorrow, right? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you again, and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
So we'll have an exclusive breakfast meeting with.
Yeah, at Crimson, right?
At
At the Crimson, yeah, not here. So you don't have to travel. We'll be the one to go to.
Can we have a group photo here? Yeah.